I tell you what, a fish and chip restaurant will be out of soon, and that's Spanish mackerel. The state government announced that they were taking action to rebuild the Spanish mackerel fishery for future generations, and there's new fishery management arrangements for Spanish mackerel. There are 2 3-week closed seasons and reduced quotas. I spoke to Luke Bradnam about this on the show. The bag limit for a recreational fisherman's like 1 or 2 per boat or something. Dan McCarthy is the spokesperson for the Cairns Professional Game Fishing Association. He's on the line. Hey, Dan.
G'day, Neil. How are you going?
Good, mate. Good. So tell me about this Spanish mackerel bag limit. Like for recreational fishers, it's one thing, but for professionals, it's another thing, right?
Yeah, that's right, Neil. It's a whole nother kettle of fish, to excuse the pun. But basically what's happening here, the state government under Minister Furner and the Queensland Fisheries Department has basically cooked the books, something fierce. The data they are relying on, the stock assessment they have done is some of the dodgiest science I think that's ever been presented in Queensland. It is full of holes. It is missing decades of data. There's 300 tonnes of recreational catch has just vanished from one stock assessment to the other. There's all this, supposed increased commercial effort that simply just does not exist. It all amounts to some of the people that are running this stock assessment have basically, in my opinion, cooked the books to make it suit the agenda they wanted. They ran 80 different models. Most of them showed the Spanish mackerel stock is in very, very healthy conditions, which it actually is. It's in very healthy conditions. I'm out there all the time, and I can tell you the mackerel are that thick, they're chewing you out of the boat. And here we are, we've got a department, in my case, a very incompetent department, in my opinion, a very incompetent department that's trying to convince the population and the government, and they've convinced the government and Minister Furner very, very much so. They've led him up the garden path for him to put these drastic changes in place on the back of the mackerel stock being at 17%. Of all of the 80 models they ran, nearly all of them had the stock at around 60%, but they cherry-picked the one that had it in dire straits.
The worst one.
The case. Absolutely.
So what does it mean for a professional fisherman or fisherwoman up in Cairns?
Okay, well, what happens is there's only really a handful of commercial mackerel fishermen left. The average age is about 70 in the shade.
Yeah.
Most of them have commercial mackerel fished all their life. And just to put it in perspective, we're talking about commercial mackerel fishing where they are using a mother boat or a dory. Most of them work by themselves or with one other person. They have 2 troll lines with a garfish on the end, and they troll around. They're not using great big nets or any of this other...
No, they're catching them. They're line caught.
Exactly. They're hand line caught. They're very well handled. They're a fantastic product. 100% of the commercially line caught Spanish mackerel in Queensland is consumed in Queensland, in fish and chip shops and in restaurants. So that's going to be lost now because those guys will, no doubt, they will go broke. You cannot cut, they're cutting the commercial quota by 70%. There's no business of any description that can handle their income being cut by 70% and survive. It is simply not sustainable.
So how many could they catch a day? How many were they allowed to catch a day?
Well, I know one of the mackerel fishermen, a good friend of mine the other day, not too far away from Cairns, caught 80 in the morning the other day. There's no shortage of stock, but he's going to go broke, as well as the other ones that are around. And we're going to have fish and chip shops with no mackerel. Except they're going to be able to import it now, or they're going to have to import it, the fish and chip shops, if they want to keep serving mackerel, from Indonesia. And they catch hundreds of thousands of tons a year. And here we are catching less than 200 tons a year, and they're cutting our quota back. It is just absolutely absurd. And when you look at the recreational anglers, they're going to be able to catch 1 Spanish mackerel.
1
or 2 per boat.
That's stunning. That is stunning. 1 Spanish mackerel.
Yep. And, admittedly, one decent-sized Spanish mackerel, there's a lot of meat on that. I get that. But when you look at the investment people put into their boats and their equipment to go out and enjoy time on the water, go and have some solitude, get away from their busy lives and whatever, and go and relax. And quite often you can catch a mackerel in moments from being out there. Not always straight away, but a lot of the time very easily. Then what do? Sit around, twiddle your thumbs? And then
try and catch a dolphin fish or something.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got, when you come to these closures that you mentioned, Neil, in October and November, we're going to have 2 3-week closures in the north of the state, and then in February and March, we're going to have 2 3-week closures in the southern half of the state, or southern part of the state. So in North Queensland, in November, we've already got a reef line fishing closure. So people can't go out and catch coral trout, red emperor and the like for a 5-day period. Now we're going to have a 3-week period where you can't catch a Spanish mackerel, which is exactly what people would do when the weather's beautiful in November. They'd go out, the line fishing closure's on, so we can't catch a trout. We'll go and catch a mackerel. Dung dung. No, you won't.
And you're gone.
We'll stay in the river and go and catch a barra. Oh, no, you can't. We've got a 3-month closure for barra. If this isn't being just a push by the most anti-fishing lobby government we have ever had, I don't know what is. It's just absolutely absurd. And this push is coming from the radical green extremists, in my opinion, that have undoubtedly infiltrated the department and the Environment Department, mind you, and a whole bunch of other government areas. And they are leading this Queensland Labor government around by the nose, and they are just marching to the anti-fishing lobby group's tune. And Queenslanders need to wake up and go, well, hang on a minute, this government is certainly not acting in our interest, so we need to do something about this.
Rightio, Dan McCarthy, you state your case pretty well. He's the spokesperson for the Cairns Professional Game Fishing Association. Enjoy November when you can't fish. We'll talk to you when this issue raises its head again. I'm not trying to make a joke, Dan.
Thanks, Neil.
I understand it's tough. Okay. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Appreciate you covering the issue. Thank you, mate.
No worries. Let's go to the newsroom.